know nothing and do nothing scams. And worse. But here's a few. You don't have to know anything about internet or computers. That's interesting. You don't have to even use the internet to make money. You don't even need to use a computer. You can just put up a web page, do nothing, and cash huge checks. There is no work required. Now, these are only a few things that the scammers and slimeballs hand to us either directly or on a phone call or on the internet and on advertising that we buy into every day. Well, I've kind of had my fill of it. I've digested enough. So that's what today is all about. Welcome to Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties and our episode on scammers and slimeballs, especially the Google scammers and slimeballs. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. And I usually try to choose something impactful to start out with. And I thought there's nothing better than to show you some of the lines that I've seen come at me to tell me what I should do to make $1,000,000 online. And well, or whatever. Maybe even 100,000 would be nice. Well, a grand would be nice. 10 bucks would be nice. I mean, if anything worked, it would be kind of like interesting, right? Wow, this actually works. I made some money. But most of the time, we don't. And so that's why we are into internet marketing and of a different sort than you're going to find that we're talking about today. And with me, by the way, my name is Roland from R&D Hotline, now the sponsor of the show, Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. And with me are some other Smarties that we're going to introduce to you right now. The first is Molly Youngblood Geiger. Molly, please say hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Youngblood Geiger. I'm located in Jacksonville, Florida. The name of my agency is Design Right For You, and I participate with Google on several different platforms. I am a Google Partners Ambassador. I'm also a Google Partners Rising Star. I'm a Hangouts Top Forum Rising Star, and I'm also Google.
Oh, there was a little bit of a hangout, but the people got the impression, I'm sure, that you're the Google lady. So that's what we call you. And now the San Francisco marketer, Karen V. Chin. Please say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm out here in rainy California today, and I am a marketing consultant and social media engager, and I am so looking forward today with this conversation because I've heard so many stories from people talking about Google slimeballs and scammers, and also just internet scammers in general. So this is a great topic that we're going to have today.
It is, and I've got my hackles are up a bit because I've been wanting to talk about this. And I started the show to talk about there are a lot of ways to go wrong, so that my first advice is get an education. And that's what this show is all about, giving people the education so that maybe they make a few smaller or lesser mistakes, or maybe none at all. So we are not the only ones in the green room today. We also have Barbara Quick, who is a very good friend and an internet marketer of her own right. And she's got a story to tell, which we are going to bring on later on. But Barbara, say hi and tell us what's going on with you.
Hi there. Thanks to Roland, I kind of got straightened out a little. I'm one of them that fell for all the scammers early on. And education helps, yes.
And just to like entice people a little bit, your story will be presented a little bit later on. But tell them, for impact purposes, what is the approximate sum and total of your loss to internet marketing online?
A little over $30,000.
Okay, stop right there, and that's enough bait. That's enough bait because before I started the Hangout series, Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, you were my first constituent, and it's like, wow, it could be like. Barbara was the first one to jump onto the Roland scam, and she's still with me, But I haven't asked her for a cent, so not the same thing, I guess. But anyway, we're going to talk about scammers and slimeballs, and the thing is they divide into two categories. It's as simple as this. The people who know they're scamming you and the people that don't know they're scamming you. Because there's two ways to do this. Either you offer people something that you know is not going to pay off and you know is not worth the value, but they're paying you for it and you're taking their money and you're a slimeball, you're a scammer. And there are the people who don't know what they're doing, or they're not clear on what they're doing, or their services are obsolete and they're still selling it to you. And that's just as bad. If they don't know what they're doing and they're taking your money, that's just as bad as purposely scamming you, because it's their obligation to know what they're doing so they can offer you value, current value, for what you're paying for and what you're expecting. And that's a conclusion that the people get to usually well after the fact that they're not having services and products delivered for what they paid for. So that's the general setup, and we're going to go into this in a second. We have a live example and sampling of how this industry works with Barbara Quick here. But first, we're going to take it right to the top, because it's not just the people on the low level here and in the midst of the internet who are just skiving people off, whoever they can grab, but they're actually impersonating Google and saying they're Google and saying, yes, we could get you on page 1 of Google. And there are a lot of claims that we need to let you know right now don't work. And for that, we're going to turn to Molly Youngblood Geiger. And so, Molly, if you have a bunch of stories, and I know we'll have to limit it to a couple, but you guys did an entire series, or actually a two-part series, I believe, on the Google scam. And let's start off by describing that and tell people what to watch for, because I've received them, all of you have received them, and probably almost everybody out there listening have also received these calls on their telephone. And I'll let you introduce the concept to our listening audience.
Sure. So about a year ago, I'm in the Google Partners community, and one of the partners just did a post, and they're like, "You are not going to believe it. One of my clients just called me up and said that this person just called them and said that they were with Google and they could get their website on page 1." And he was very frustrated because not only was his client getting called, but he was getting these phone calls. And you have to understand, people in the Google Partners community, they are all trained, certified experts in different various mediums of digital marketing. So to have someone call, and I've actually received these phone calls myself, to say, yeah, we can get you on page 1 of Google, we're with Google, and I know it's not true. I just know it's just simply not true. And so it got me thinking that, we really need to bring awareness to this issue. And so I did a hangout popular. I'm sorry, I think I'm cutting out. I can't hear you right now. Can you hear me? Okay, good. So we did a hangout with this exact same partner who made the post in the Google Partners community, and he explained that not only was this hurting his business and his clients, but it actually is kind of casting a shadow of doubt on Google partners who have actually taken the time, who actually know how to get you on page 1 of Google, or optimize your AdWords campaign, or optimize shopping or mobile. So it's kind of a
Unfortunately, we have a feed issue, Molly, and it's
actually
cutting.
sued. Hello?
Yeah, your feed is cutting out a little bit and freezes for the recording purposes. So I think it might be a bandwidth issue. It's happened a couple times.
Okay, let me see if I can adjust that.
While you're doing that, I will take a moment to acknowledge a few people. Thank you very much, Gary Whalen, for your constant support. I really appreciate you being there. Carlos Savio is out in the audience. WeWake is also out there, and I appreciate you folks coming in. A long lost love, Missy J happens to be with us today, and hello, Missy. We miss you, Missy, and thank you very much for showing up today. I appreciate it. And the reason that there was no sound WeWay because I had my microphone muted. And yeah, you were absolutely right. So anyway, there's that. How's it going, Molly? You ready?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
adjusted my bandwidth and was seeing if that was any better quality.
Okay.
Okay,
So
great.
carry on.
So I'm not sure where I left off, but essentially I did this Hangout two-part series last year covering this issue about Google called your business, about getting your website optimized. They use several different topics, but essentially what's going on is they robocall people, meaning they call them constantly. In fact, I saw one story, which I'll actually post. It's a video where a news station did a story about businesses getting scammed. And this one business owner, he said, you know, these people were relentless. They would call me 5, 6 a day. And he said, finally, I just to just get them to stop calling me, I decided to go with their service. And he said, I think he paid like $400 is what he paid. And he said, I got nothing for it. I got ripped off $400. And, you know, when something like that happens, that's a real problem because, you know, the business owner knows they need a website, they need SEO, they need to have their digital campaign optimized. But when there's people out there actually just literally taking people's money and not even doing anything for the person, that's a real big problem. And I know back in October of 2015, Google actually finally pursued one of these agencies. They actually took them to court. And I believe in 2016 we're going to see them crack down a lot more on these agencies because, you know, essentially they're misrepresenting themselves. They're claiming they're with Google when they're not. And then, as you pointed out, they're either not performing the service or they think they can perform the service and they're not producing any results.
So Molly, it's really not, I wouldn't even call them agencies. I mean, agencies are actually a company that actually performs the service. I would call them just basically slime balls and scam artists. I mean, they truly are scam artists. I mean, that's what it comes down to, the bottom line. Because you hear these stories about people going through it, and then it makes it even harder for them, again, to trust another actually legitimate Google partner out there to actually do the business if they can find one, right? Because there's a lot of people who claim that they're Google partners and they're not Google partners. And so, I mean, I think you can also talk about too, Molly, about what does it actually take to be certified and to be a Google partner, to get that badge to show to the world that you are associate or affiliate with Google legitimately, because you've taken the the certification test and because you've also do enough advertising through AdWords to actually earn that badge.
Let's go into that in just a moment. And it's very, very essential. It's like, yes, there are certifications that can prove people know what they're doing. But Missy J, by the way, Comment Tracker decided to pull one off on Roland and just not even load today. So I tried restarting the Hangout, I tried everything, and Comment Tracker just doesn't want to work today. So unfortunately, I can't show you some of the comments going on in the stream. But Missy J asked a very good question. I have heard of people who don't know. Pardon me. I have not heard of people who don't know that they are scammers. How is this possible? And it's not that they don't know they're scammers. They think that they are offering a legitimate service, but it's no longer applicable to today's internet. So it's the responsibility of the service provider to provide something that is of value. And indeed, if they're doing something for a website that is of no value or potentially hurting your internet marketing campaign, that's considered an internet marketing sin, and they should be called out on that. And certainly not charging people to do a service that's going to hurt their business or not help at all. So it's better to know the internet today, what things are expected, what things work, and solicit for services that you know are going to help, instead of looking at the shiny object when people say, I know how to do blah, and this will get you on page 1 of Google, or this will get you unlimited traffic, and there's a bunch of catchphrases that we will bring in and tell you about that you should watch for when you're looking at these ads and people who are making claims, and we'll go on with that. But before we do that, Molly, did you have any other examples of the Google attack that that you spent 2 episodes in Hangouts talking about?
Yeah, I actually have a real story that happened to me when I first went in business. And so, you know, like any other small business, I was on a tight budget. I didn't have a lot of advertising dollars, and so I know Craigslist, that type of thing. And I picked up a few leads, and one specifically, the guy wanted a website built out. And so I think I quoted it, you know, not too bad for a website design project. And he goes, well, I don't know. He goes, I just paid another website designer $1,500, and he skipped town. And it never occurred to me that there were people out there ripping small business owners off. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a big problem for me. How am I going to compensate for, you know, these people that are out there that have already been scammed because they're already scared to even go forward with a legitimate agency that can actually perform the service. And so I did come up with a strategy that kind of compensated for that, but I really never even realized it was a problem. And this is, oh gosh, 6 or 7 years ago. And, you know, from there, as I've grown and started participating in Google Partners, and you know, and what really got me is when this gentleman's name is Russ Coate, he posted this in the Google Partners community. I'm like, I hadn't even thought about the fact that what about those agencies that are legitimate, that do know how to perform the service, and then by the time the business owner, they go with a scammer or a slime ball, they get burnt, they get scared because they know they need the digital marketing and they need that online presence, but then they're like, okay, well, I don't trust anyone. I don't know who do I trust, you know? And so that's one reason why I'm a huge fan of Google Partners community, because all those people in that community are all legit. They're all very knowledgeable. They can definitely get the job done. And I would recommend this live hangout, or if you're watching it in Replay City, that if you need any type of digital marketing or website design or SEO or any of that stuff, check out Google Partners. They do have a Google Partners portal search. If you're in a specific geolocation, you're looking for a partner in Florida or Washington or wherever you're located, you can actually go and search that in agencies that are certified. And Karen's right in regards to the people in the community. They go through a series of trainings. We have hangouts all the time about AdWords optimization, analytics, mobile shopping, digital. I mean, just all kinds of stuff going on in there. And I think that's something else too that's really important. You have to know what questions to ask an agency to try and find out, well, are you legitimate or are you some type of scammer or slime ball? So I think maybe during the hangout, because I don't want to corner the market on this hangout, but we need to maybe explore what are some questions that a business owner can ask an agency to try and qualify them. Because I tell people all the time, you know, just like a customer qualifies an agency has to qualify a customer. So it's kind of a two-way. So maybe I can go over some of these questions. One of the questions I would ask is, how much experience do you have? Do you have a case study? Do you have a portfolio? Do you have something you can show me that you can prove, yes, I have the experience to perform the service? I know for me, that was one of my kind of things I had to overcome, is I had to build a portfolio of work so I could say, see, yes, I can do this. Another thing I might recommend is what I call a test drive, meaning a project, to see if the person can do the work.
Good. And a couple comments from the field. First of all, WeWake says Google needs to crack down severely on anybody who is scamming in Google's name. And absolutely, you know, maybe they're doing things already that could curtail some of that. And I'm sure that there are going to be legal ramifications for a company that's impersonating Google, who has plenty of money to pursue such a thing. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen to make a comment in case you have something to say. But before that, I would testify myself that so many companies, so many businesses came to me asking for help after this type of thing had been happening. And the web designer that left town and disappeared is really surprising how often that's happened. And nowadays, they don't have to leave town. They just have to disappear. It's on the internet, right? I mean, the chances of your web designer being in your town with you are getting slimmer and slimmer. But you have to watch out for what you're soliciting for help on the internet because they could look really good. That does not mean they are really good. So even asking for credentials maybe doesn't help. But if you get to know somebody, this all boils back down to building the relationship with people. And when you build a relationship, if they're scamming you, they're going to scam you probably on all aspects of life, not just on internet marketing. You can get a better idea of what they are like, whether you would like to work with them in the first place, and when you finally like them, then ask them what they do. By the way, we're saying hello to Dr. Margaret Aranda. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate you being here. But said another thing, and I don't want that to get lost here. Where is it? Hang on. Oh yeah, well he was commenting on your voice lagging out in the production, and Molly stepped out, and she's probably going to come back to actually take care of that right there. Anyway, we're also saying hello to Randy Smith. Thank you for showing up today. Appreciate it. So anyway, part of my personal experience has also been that web designers leave town. For whatever reason, they disappear. They're just, oh, what happened? And the client calls the guy or gal, and they're nowhere to be found. They don't return phone calls. They don't return email addresses, but they got their deposit. And maybe they even got their balance, depending upon how smart we've been, right? But they have their money, and then as long as they can cut out the work that they have to do, they take the money and run. And it's probably some of those people didn't even mean to be a scammer. But life happens. I instantaneously became a web designer, and I got these clients, but lo and behold, I had to escape town because the police were after me. I don't know what their case is, but they stopped doing their business. So you have to find a reputable service that's been around for a while and you know is not going to disappear off the face of the earth, or at least you have a better idea of whether they're going to stick around or not. So, Karen, we've been rambling through. Before we bring Barbara's testimony, did you have anything to add to what we've been saying?
Yeah, I was going to say that I have actually a story that I actually was told literally last week, and it had to do with a web designer and, about skipping town. And the story about this one was that I think people can relate to, which is shocking itself, was that a cousin the cousin said I was a web designer, took the deposit, and that person skipped town. It's a family friend, who basically was referred to, and now that just the whole controversy within the family is people are really upset about because the person took the money and just left and never did any of the work. And I think we were talking about this, Roland, in terms of how can you not get taken advantage of? I mean, try at least not to get as much taken advantage of. And maybe it's based on, when you think about it, is a lot of it is common sense, but yeah, I think it's references, looking at people's work, but maybe that could be forged. Maybe the idea is also talking to people, actually not just email, but actually locating the people that person has done the work for, and actually get that feeling whether or not, how was that person to work with, how was that person able to deliver, in terms of the timeline, getting those basic needs to be addressed before you actually make that deposit. And a lot of times, too, for a lot of companies, going with the fact that you don't necessarily have to pay the full amount, before they even start the work. Maybe it's installments where you're doing it like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and you don't get the final. And maybe that's the largest part of the payment, is you don't get that large dollar amount until you actually are happy with the finished product. I mean, that could be where you're not necessarily paying third, but maybe it's like 10, 10, and then 80 at the end. I mean, there's some things that you can agree upon, or there's a lot of companies out there that don't necessarily take payment up front. So it's kind of things that you kind of need to kind of look and address before you start just writing checks or sending money through PayPal to individuals.
Absolutely. And there's even something that I do for some clients and some subjects of discussion for development, is that some things I will do on a results basis. In other words, if I don't give you what you're asking me for, you will pay not as much or less or not at all. And it depends upon how confident I am to be able to achieve what they need, and how confident I am that they'll pay me when I'm done, that I might do some of the work in advance and receive payment even after the
Mm-hmm.
fact, or as you say, in installments, so that they see results and don't have to sit there wondering, well, what is this guy doing with my project, whether I'm even working on it or not. So the thing that we have to watch for is the shiny object generators out there. And there's millions of them. Shiny objects are really easy to build and design on the internet, and people are thinking, wow, if I build a website like this, I know people will click on it, and if I word my content like this, I know that they'll buy what I suggest that I'm selling, when the suggestion for the sell is absolutely without value. It's fluffy words that attract people and imply that we're going to get traffic. Let's see. Um, Unlimited traffic is one of them. They call it unlimited traffic. It's a pre-launch opportunity, so you feel like, gee, I'm getting in on the ground floor opportunity here. Or a breakthrough strategies for internet marketing. Like, this is the first time we've thought of this, and you're gold if you jump on board now, and you can beat the rush to our front door. And one of the things that I would be very aware of is how long a business has been in business. If they're a new business, they've been in business for less than a year, have no testimonials to speak of, or no testimonials from people who make any sense, or they're not endorsed by people that matter, then don't go there. And also, if they have a blog and if they haven't made a blog post for a year and a half, a brand new company should have a multitude of blog posts. So watch the traffic of the site, watch how they're set up, and if it just looks like a shiny object, it probably is. Now, Barbara, I hate to imply that you're the purchaser of shiny objects, but I think that you have been in the past. And can you tell us a little bit about your experience, because people have really taken advantage of you. So if I could give you the helm here and you could tell about your experience. By the way, we're saying hello to Nathan Siegel out there. Thanks for showing up, Nathan. Go ahead,
Yes, because
Barbara.
yeah, because Barbara, we're curious to know, like, how did you actually find these people, or how did these people find you?
I had gone online and looked for, actually just searched for businesses to do from home, online businesses to do from home. And all of a sudden I'm getting phone calls, and they're saying, oh, I can help you, I can set up a website for you, I can do this, I can do that. Now, all of them wanted their money up front. I didn't, well, I should have had more education than I did about online businesses. I went into it pretty naive, and in fact, very naive. And so really got caught. Some of them, the businesses probably would have been okay in a way, but as I went further into it, paid my money, and like one place, I had to deal with drop shippers. It was a business that I was selling products out of a online storefront, but the drop shipper was doing the shipping. And every day there'd be huge lists of changes and new products being dropped permanently, products being on back order, and you were supposed to go through all your products. Well, they had put 99 products on my website, and after a couple of weeks of that, I just threw my hands up and help, can't do this. But most of the ones that I got scammed with, one of them, they set up a website, a blog site, and I was doing my blogs, and all of a sudden this one day, they were gone. There was no way to find them. I searched, but they weren't there. And the funny thing is, I did look at Better Business Bureau on several of these businesses at the start, and everything looked fine. Although I didn't think about the idea of how long they've been in business. Roland's mentioning that, and that probably should have warned me. Most of them, it was about a year. And it turns out some of these companies, after a year, they disappeared and they reopened either under a new name, under a new website, whatever. Some of them made websites up that were not usable. It would go right to their website and they'd claim, oh no, your website's just fine, it works. Oh, I can use your website, it works fine. Well, no, it didn't. And I'd fight them on that. And they would do nothing. No money back, of course. One man said he was going to help me get business loans because he says then all of this could go on to a business loan. And so my naivety set in, and I thought, okay. And so he grabbed all the money off of one of my charge accounts, $8,000. And then his business went out of business down the road. He kind of dealt along for a while to make it look legitimate, but it wasn't. It turned out it wasn't. And several of them that I got involved with, the only time they did training was during the days and the hours that I was still working part-time. And so when I asked about it, well, you could do it on your lunch hour, you could do this, you could do that. No, there was no way. And, you know, they weren't accommodating in any way. But by then, they had my money. So it just, I did too many things, didn't realize, you know, up front, just didn't realize. And now I've got scammers calling and saying, I can get your money back. Well, now I'm smarter. And I say, no, thank you, I'm not interested. And some of them get angry, and you know right away, uh-oh. Some of them I just hang up on, but I usually say to them, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Click. Because, I mean, all they're after is more money up front, and some of them have even said, oh, I would have to have $8,000 in order to do this because it costs our company money for attorneys and all this. No. So I have gotten a lot wiser over the last couple of years, fortunately.
Yes, and you know, just to make it known, you are just one of the millions of people that read these type of leads and things and fall prey to inquiring because they're looking for an opportunity. And the picture painted by the web designer beat the guy, beat him up. The picture painted by the web designer and the graphic artist and the people that use these things are just filling in a template that should be used on a legitimate business, and then the template will be basically close to right, but what they're doing is filling it in with a bunch of BS and making it look good and causing you to click on something that's not worth a cent, because their goal, the business that's making this website, all they want is your money. They are not interested in providing a service or a product of value whatsoever, but they imply that it's there. So those are the people who actually know that they are scammers. By the way, Stellian Mezin, please tell me how to pronounce your name. I mean, we've even had a couple of conversations. Who is this guy? He's new to the bunch and out there, but we don't know how to pronounce your name, so maybe you could write it in there phonetically on how to do that. And so Stellian looks pretty obvious, but Mezin or Mezine, I don't know. So please tell us how to pronounce your name. Thank you very much for showing up. And he makes a comment that I wanted to ping pong off of, and that he brings up the subject of SEO and guarantees. And once and for all, let's make this clear, and I've got the Google lady as proof of this. If someone says that they can get you on page 1 of Google, they're basically lying because although it's possible to get on page 1 of Google, there's no guarantee. Right or wrong?
That's correct. There's no way to positively affirm, I'm going to get you on page 1, number 1 of Google. And I'll tell you why. It's because the algorithm written for search doesn't always place a certain business on page 1, number 1 every time. In fact, what it actually does is it shares that number 1 position. Now, those people who share that number 1 position, their websites have been optimized for search. That's a whole other hangout. But essentially, it includes what we call metadata. Metadata is a hidden code that goes on the back of a web page and basically tells a search engine about the website. So, short version, the more metadata your website has, the better chance you have of getting on page 1, number 1 of Google. Going into that, I just quickly want to mention this is a subject that's been around for several years now. In fact, in the local search forum, one of the top contributors, Linda Bouquet, she actually caught one of these scammers on a phone call, and she recorded it. And it was very interesting because when I did my hangouts last year, she actually kind of like, well, I wouldn't say she participated, but she helped me in terms of, she's like, hey, Molly, here's this link, share it with your audience. And so I'm actually getting ready to post that to the event page. But it was a very interesting phone call because just like I was explaining earlier, when you are a digital marketer, you know what to look for in terms of when somebody, and this is what gets me, these scammers, they're so aggressive. They will actually call digital marketers. Okay, these are people, this is what they do for a living, and try to sell them getting on page 1 of number 1 of Google. And I'm like, and I've called people out several times. I mean, they call me up and, oh yeah, we can get you on page 1, number 1. And I said, this is what I do for a living. I know that what you're telling me is false. And I actually, normally what happens when that happens is I get clicked, they hang up on me, and I just say, like, wow, really, do you even research who it is you're calling? And
It's
that's
a numbers game to them. They don't really care. Even as long as you'll believe their lie, they'll take your money.
Exactly, and what blew my mind is one of these guys called a top contributor for Google and tried to sell her this service, and I'm like, wow. And she was smart enough to quickly react and record the phone conversation. So I think it would serve as a great example for people to listen to the phone conversation so you can kind of get an idea of what these scammers and slimeballs are doing when they call. Something else you might want to be aware of is the robocalls. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do as a business owner to prevent the robocalls except ignore them. Typically, you're going to see them happen, maybe several times a day or several times a week. But the best thing to do is if you get these calls, is just ignore them, let it roll to voicemail or however you get your messages, and just don't call them back. And if you get one of these guys on the phone, maybe you just didn't know that it was a robocall, just tell them up front you're not interested. Or even better yet, like I said, have them produce some case studies, because more than likely they're not going to have any case studies for you to look at. But yeah, going back to your question, it's impossible to promise page 1, number 1. If someone ever tells you that, they're just lying to you.
So maybe we can answer the phone call by saying, no, I'm not interested, but could I have your name and address and phone number so I can report you to the Better Business Bureau? Or something like that.
There are a couple of ways to report them now. Russ Code actually started a website. I'll post that to the event page. But there is actually a way to report this to Google now, because they finally, after they realize, okay, this is a real problem, we need to start doing something about it. And like I said, they did take one of these slimeball scammers to court. I think it was in October last year. And I'm hoping this year they crack down on even more of these folks, because it really, it's hard enough to run a business, much less try and get scammed out of money, because you need the service or product. In fact, I actually ran across a lead that he had a similar experience, and he's still vacillating. Well, I don't know if I want to do this or not. So usually in those instances, if you are a digital agency and you're watching, provide your certifications, provide a portfolio, maybe have a Q&A session with the client to just make them feel more comfortable about your agency and being able to perform the work.
Cool. Now, also, we're going to turn it over to Karen in one moment, but I wanted to acknowledge Ellen K. Martin is out there, and she says that this website called No More Robo seems to work pretty well. So there's a testimonial from a person in the audience to combat robocalls, and so I'm very much behind that. And by the way, Stellian, I'm pronouncing his name right apparently. Stellian Mezin, glad to have you here. So there's a couple things from the audience. Now, Karen, did you have a little something to add?
Yeah, I was going to add, so for both Molly and for Barbara, I mean, it's time and time again when it comes down to it is, I think for you, Barbara, were any of the conversations that you ever had with these scammers, did they ever talk about your content? Did they ever talk about how they can improve, or ways to improve content? Because I think that's the huge, red flag. Because if they're just talking about getting, anyone on page one or just, rankings and all that, and they never talk about your content or even audit your content, I would think that would be, I mean, a complete red flag in terms of these people are scammers. And that for Google especially, I mean, they're all about having good content. If you have good content, I mean, you're moving up your quality score, your ad rank. I mean, everything goes up when your content is, deemed valuable and informative, and that there are, multiple links that, other websites are linking to you because they find that your content is so valuable.
Absolutely. There's another thing. WeWake brings up. There's a service in Great Britain called TPS, the Telephone Preference Service, and they basically are someplace where you can report this type of thing. Does the U.S. have anything like that, Molly?
We have actually in the U.S. there actually is direct marketing, where you want to actually ban any kind of soliciting sales calls. Supposedly it doesn't work because I still get them, but the U.S. government does actually have these things set up where you can actually ban any marketing calls to your house, and also mail and email.
Right.
That I could put that in. But I mean, in terms of robocalls and things like that, you could still continue to do that, but it doesn't go away. I mean, these companies are ignoring it completely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one reason why Google is starting to crack down on these scammers and slimeballs, because when you have a business owner out there and they are saying, hey, I don't want your solicitation anymore, and they continue to contact those persons, that's a violation of their privacy and a violation of them being able to run their business effectively. And to add to what Karen just said, it is about looking at several different aspects of your business, meaning are they asking you about, are you using AdWords, are you using analytics, what type of content, what's your target market? Who are you trying to sell to? They need, a legitimate agency is going to be asking you these types of questions. In fact, most agencies, before they even sell you on anything, they're going to have a consultation with you. They're going to ask you these types of questions. So if you're dealing with somebody that right off the cuff, they want you to pull that credit card out, that would be a big red flag to just say, hey, wait a second, let me do some research. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you encounter some of these people and they try to put the hard sell on you, just say, you know what, I'm not ready to buy today. Just tell them, I'm not ready to buy. I'm going to do some research. Maybe call me back in a month or so. And usually we'll stop the conversation, because it's one of those things that you, as a business owner, you have to protect yourself. And if you're not comfortable with who you are on the phone, then just in the call, make up an excuse. My kid's in the other room crying, whatever. Just get them off the phone.
So people are posting some great links in the comment stream, and thank you very much. And Karen, thanks for adding that link. And WeWake was asking something, or he was telling about an experience that was very prevalent in some of my past also, and that if someone came along and asked him, would he take over for where the other guy left off when he split town and left him high and dry? And so basically what's happening is the guy that rips somebody off with a no value website or whatever the product or service is, and they left the job half done, and then someone's stuck here with this albatross of a project, and then they come to the new person, WeWake or me or somebody else, and they say, "Will you finish it for the other guy that failed me?" And it's like, I tell you right now, if you're in that position, chances are your project is not worth salvation, because it was probably designed improperly by the wrong people in the first place and didn't have a chance to succeed in the get-go. So don't ask some people to pick up the pieces. It's probably going to have to be redesigned from the ground up, and that includes brainstorming the project in the first place and not just building you a website. So anyway, there's that. we're going to be wrapping up the last quarter of an hour with a little bit of something that stems right off of this. But before we go on, I wanted to thank Barbara for giving your testimonial, and you're part of this green room. If we're talking about something that pertains to what you did or what you're doing, and you have a question or you have a comment, please feel free to chime in, and we'll give you some airtime too, because you're a lady that's been through a lot and have a lot of experience with this sort of thing. I mean, I know that I gained a lot from talking to you. As a matter of fact, that was the reason our relationship began, I believe, because we were talking about, we met casually in LinkedIn, but then all of a sudden you were talking about the stuff that you got sucked into, and I wasn't even offering you services at the time, but I just was listening to the story of what you've been through, and I was appalled. I could not believe that you had been through that. And basically we became friends, and I took some efforts to help you clean up your foundation and get you started on the right track. So hopefully we got you started right. And
I appreciate everything you did.
Yeah, anyone that knows you knows that it's a pleasure to work with you, and so it was my pleasure.
But I think also too, it's like for those who do have to pick up the pieces of clients like Barbara, and you actually do a good job, you basically have a client for life because they trust you and that they're not going to go anywhere else if you can actually deliver what they were looking for. I mean, yeah, you would have to start all over again, and you probably couldn't use any of the stuff that was created because it was just basically garbage to begin with. But the idea is that once you do find someone that you can trust and they can deliver, I mean, you never want to separate because you know what's out there.
Yeah, and there's a building up of trust and accountability, and you feel like, well, that's forward movement, and no one else gave me value for what I invested, so they're going to stick with you if you offer them this. Yeah. And we lost Barbara, but that's okay. Yeah. There.
And then the other thing too is, as back to Google and what Google's doing to try to stop and prevent this by being more proactive in it, is that it's actually hurting Google's brand. You've got all these scammers out there who are claiming that they are somehow affiliated with Google. It's gotten to the point now where legitimate Google partners who are out there who are doing their job and actually are great at it, but yet they can't do their job because you've got all these slimeballs out there who are mucking up the brand, and companies like that have to put their foot down, because if they didn't do what they did in October by taking that company to court for millions of dollars, it's going to just continue.
I agree 100%, Karen. What really gets me is I don't understand the logic behind these scammers and slimeballs. I mean, okay, you're going to go out, you're going to say you claim you can do this service or you can't, or you make these claims that are just unfounded, and then yet you have other agencies like people in the Google Partners community who are legitimate. I mean, that's the whole term, is a long-term relationship, and I never understood how could a person go out and sleep at night knowing that they went and they just literally took money from a legitimate business.
Yeah, but it's, again, Molly, it's not just the internet, it's just scammers in general. I mean, they're just con artists. I mean, what it comes down to it is that they're just completely con artists. They're not graphic designers. They're not web designers. They're not programmers. They're not developers. They're nothing. They're just basically claiming that they are, and that they have the shiny object, as Roland is mentioning, because there's people out there who think that if I buy that shiny object at $199 or $4.99 or $9.99, I'm gonna, it's a quick rich scheme. And when it comes down to it, if you're going to set up a business, you got to really work, and you just can't necessarily get it like that in a nice, pretty little package. It doesn't work that way.
That's very true.
And so, the shiny objects. What sort of? This is my last question for the day. What sort of things that we see in text or in offers on websites should we absolutely avoid, or red flag it at least, and research deeply before we proceed? If we see them on the internet, what are they? And I could get started naming a few if you like. Okay, the anytime you see an offer or a lead to join something, if they focus on membership and no product and no value or no delivery, think twice and probably don't do it. If they focus on membership, they just want your money, and they want the money of your friends as well. So they ask you to build memberships and get some people, and gee, you could have some money coming in yourself, and you get that maybe even a first paycheck, but beyond that, everything goes to the people above. And it's usually a few people. So membership sites that deliver nothing, yeah, you want to look out for that. Even if they promise riches, they're not going to be in your pocket. Another thing to look out for is if the offer of what you're getting is confusing and they just keep on piping about the price and the urgency to buy now because the price is going to go up after the grand start, and you're getting in on the ground floor opportunity at a major league discount, 1/4 of what the value is worth. BS. Things are sold for what they're worth on the internet and off the internet. And if they imply that the value is more, but you're getting it for the extreme deal, it's because it's worth maybe it's worth the deal, but not the extreme value. Everything is inflated on the internet unless otherwise understood and evaluated by you. But if they say, gee, it's a $1,000 value, well, it's probably worth $50 if it's worth anything at all. But they can say whatever they want, so watch what they imply, and the value to you is whether it affects your life for $1,000 value or not whether they think that they want to charge that much, because the prices are superfluous and it doesn't make any sense. So the value is always inflated. Watch what you buy. Also, if they have a confusing action system, so like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do to make this money. Everyone's making money, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And if they don't tell you exactly step 1, step 2, step 3, now see how that's supposed to work. If they can't explain that to you, don't do it. But if they're going to keep jamming for the little $5 entry fee, because all they want is 1,000,000 people spending $5.
I think it goes back to the old adage, buyer beware. It's
Buyer
just
beware.
like it's just like, buying anything online. You want to make sure you're buying from a trusted source. That's why if you are a small business, you're watching this live, you're watching it in Replay City, you need a person who is qualified. I strongly urge you to check out the Google Partners community. You do your research, ask for case studies, ask some questions, ask some really hard questions, because those people who are legitimate, they're going to either have an answer for that question, or if they don't have an answer for you right away, they will get back with you. Non-legit companies, they're going to grease their way through those type of questions, and that's really, you have to, as I mentioned earlier, you have to qualify an agency. You have to make sure the people that you're working with are legitimate, and maybe, and I've actually had this happen before. I've had leads come and interview with them, consult with them, and they go, well, do you have any references? Sure, I have plenty of references. Here's the name of 3 different of my clients, and I, of course, call the client first, make sure that they're comfortable with giving me a reference before I give their name out. But a legitimate agency is not going to have any problem with you getting a reference, because they know that their client that they reference is going to back up their work and promote the fact that they are a legitimate agency.
Absolutely, and that's vetting your service is a very important thing, but in as much as we try to do that, we are not the marketers, we are not the programmers, we are not the people with the knowledge, but you do have to get enough of an education yourself to know when you're being scammed. Because if you don't know the terminology and you just see the shiny objects and you just know that you want to put money in your pocket, there's a million ways that you can be misled. And some of the people are actually scamming you, and some of them are trying to provide the service but don't really realize that the service that they are providing is no longer the way to do things, and yet they want to provide a service to you and they want their money in their pocket. And so maybe that's not on purposely a scam, but it's definitely something to watch out for, because that's your money you're investing and you want to know what's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other way of also looking at it too is, besides the internet, is that businesses is also when you think about when you do business with others, is that if you are interested in building a website, if you're interested in SEO, start asking your friends. Ask people that you know, that you trust, that maybe they know friends that have people that they've worked with. I mean, because it's all about references, right? It's all about knowing that contact that you can have some sort of association with. So it's not like you're just kind of going off and looking at an ad online and thinking that maybe this is the one for me. But maybe it's your next door neighbor, maybe it's your kid's friend that could be a web developer. You just don't know. You got to get those feelers out and just kind of do it the old-fashioned way and just network and just ask those questions.
Well, what they suggest with social media is a concept that with social media you make relationships with your friends who can help you know, like, and trust somebody who's worth giving a shot to. So we rely on the system itself for some good information.
I have several stories, several occurrences of exactly that happening to me on social media. In fact, earlier this week, I'm still shocked. Over in the Google Small Business community, which if you're not familiar with, I advise that you check it out. It's a great community for small businesses. But they actually came out and publicly posted one of my business tips, and I was really surprised because they didn't do it once but twice. And I've had several times people recommend, like they know a friend or a family member, they say, hey, I need a website. Oh, you need to contact Molly Geiger. She's the person to contact her. Oh, I need SEO. And I've had, at least a dozen times I've picked up clients just off of social media because of the fact that I'm legitimate. And Roland's legitimate. Karen's legitimate. We're all legitimate agencies out there really trying to help a business. And so, your reputation is your business. Meaning just put yourself out there, ask questions, ask for references, get case studies, ask those agencies the hard questions about what is going to be their strategy for your business to make sure that you are working with a legitimate agency.
Ask them the strategy. Ask them for some blood and guts. Don't look at a chart and say, this is what I'm getting and that's going to get me on page one. Ask the business owner, the director, the person that's going to be doing the work. Ask them, what are you going to do for me? And then don't talk about the results. Ask them what the actual process is that they're going to go through to develop and produce the effects that you want for your business. There's no big secret. There's no big secret. It's like basically, it's a lot of information for the average person. But this is your business. You should know how the people are going to promote it and advertise it. When you're designing a flyer to put on cars, you take really great care to make sure that the wording is right and the color paper is right and so forth, and that's just on a flyer. Can you imagine the depth of information for designing a website with media and videos and content going before people on the internet, how much more important that is? So we're just about wrapping up our hour, and I want to thank Barbara for being with us and in and out there, and Molly was in and out too, but thank you for sticking with us and presenting this stuff. There's a lot of things that we could have added to today. Some of the comments that I read off the internet on pages like the Ripoff Report or Scam Busters and places that they're all over the place, and I don't want to burden the people watching with go here and hear about all the horror stories. Just watch what you're stepping in. Just watch where your forward motion is going. And if you need to question something, indeed, question it, because you can ask the internet, you can ask your friends, and get feedback on just about everything. And Dr. Margaret was suggesting we do an event on portfolios, and that's a possibility. How to design and build a good portfolio of your work that'll pertain to the people who are actually doing work and want to build a presence online. And also a couple of things that we might also cover that we've been speculating on are reviews and testimonials. Do you know that it is said that 1 out of 3 testimonials is fake? 1 out of 3 testimonials is fake. So if you're looking at a website and they've got a list of testimonials there, At least every third one is probably made up or asked of a friend or something. It's not real. A testimonial is someone who's done business with you and wants to compliment you and promote you for the sake of helping your business onward and proving that you provided good service or products to them. That's a testimonial. It's not asking a friend to write a little thing that you can put in your website. However, that is being done today. So anyway, we've covered a lot of things, a lot of stories that I read on the internet that we won't bother with today. But the main thing is to watch your step, and not fall prey to the scams, whether the people realize that they're scamming you or just don't know any better. Watch your step, and it's all over the place. As of a couple of years ago, I was telling people that 80% of the stuff on the internet you got to watch out for. And there may be, and I think that this percentage is high now that we've been talking about it, 20% of them are probably legitimate, good businesses where people are actually intently trying to provide you a legitimate service with high integrity, honesty, and good stuff, and the abilities that match what you're paying. But the rest of them, you just got to watch out for. And that's part of the reason why I started this show, Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, to educate the people that need to know. So I guess we're wrapping it up for the day, and thank you very much for watching. If you have any further questions, we'll be following the comment stream. And thank you very much to the people in the audience for commenting and adding a lot of links and contribution to the show itself. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And we're now going to say goodbye from Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Bye-bye.